Welcome back. Welcome back. One at a time this time. You're on Inside the Paint. Ira and Clay. Going through some of the comments here. Hey, Ira, Chase tells me to tell you to stop using big words around Jimmy.
Well, you know what? If I can use big words around Jimmy and he can put up big points, I think Heat fan comes out ahead. So I think we'll continue that trend.
Some of the comments in the chat, too, are about, man of 1,005 hold says here, the Heat are scary. It's hard to plan for them. Anybody can go off at any point. And that kind of leads us into what I wanted to talk about in this segment, which is He'd have too many dudes and for Atlanta. And, I think it's Anthony McFarland who used to talk about this. Just got maybe I'm wrong on that, but it was one of the ESPN analysts who would talk about, when previewing football games, how many dudes does a team have? And how many guys are you concerned that can kind of throw off your game plan? And when you're looking at the first couple of games of this series, I thought it was really interesting. You pointed out what Trae Young said after the game last night. He said, one of our game plans, he said, we don't want to let Duncan Robinson go off early in the game. Well, he didn't. The Hawks accomplished their game plan defensively last night. It worked, and it didn't matter because the Heat have so many guys who can go out there and cause problems for you. You do need your stars. You do need your stars to be able to take over down the stretch. I think the one thing that you and I were questioning for a lot of this season was, does Jimmy Butler have it in him to flip that switch and be that guy late in games? And he proved last night he does. But you need somebody, or in this case, some bodies to get you to the finish line before Jimmy Butler takes the baton and takes you across the finish line. In game one, Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker. I mean, how many times were you able to see these guys jump out? Last night, Gabe Vincent making some big plays. Max Strus, when Atlanta was starting to push back a little bit, Max Strus hitting a couple of bit. Beginning of the fourth quarter, when everybody's taking a break, you need to get those rest minutes in. Dwayne Dedman gives you an enormous spark off of the energy. I mean, those are the types of things, Ira, that are your ensemble guys going to be the ones who make the big plays down the stretch to win you playoff games? No, that's not how this thing works. But what they are players that when the other team game plans for your better players, when they game plan to take out a Tyler Hero and a Duncan Robinson, like the Atlanta Hawks did last night, do you have other guys who can pick up the slack and get you to the finish line? I think it's the one thing, at least in this series, that he just have too many dudes for Atlanta to be able to beat them.
Well, I call it head on a swivel when you're looking out for everyone because you're concerned about everyone. And I mentioned it in the first segment today for those who want to go back to the podcast on our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show, is how they were so focused on Duncan after what he did is 8 of 9 and threes in the first game, how they've been so focused on Tyler Hero as he marches on toward his Sixth Man of the Year award, perhaps even unanimously, that a guy like a Jimmy Butler or a Kyle Lowry aren't getting the full attention that they might otherwise from another team because the Heat have those kind of guys. Those are your decoy guys. Those are your once-a-series guys. Matter of fact, I'm going to go on the record and be Mr. Negative and say that Duncan Robinson will not have another game of 8 3-pointers in this series. There, I've said it. I'm going to be that guy. Okay, I understand that.
Debbie Downer.
And Gabe Vincent might not have a game as good as his two-way game in game 2 was. But Clay, there's part B to that. When you talk about ensemble and you talk about head on a swivel and getting everyone's attention, at some point you won't if you aren't. And that's my concern. So I'm going to take it to another place. You've mentioned the Dwayne Dedmans, the Gabe Vincents, the Max Struses, Caleb Martin, I thought was very good last night defensively when he came in. But can this team, I'm going to look at it the other way. We have, let's say, 7, 8 components. Can this Heat team endure with the way, I think you know where I'm going here, that Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are playing? And I know it's small sample size theater, just 2 games. But man, I'm not so sure there's been a stretch when Bam has been this mediocre the entire season. I'm not so sure there hasn't been a stretch, or there has been a stretch when Bam and Tyler have been this nominal together in consecutive games. And at some point, if the mojo goes away, if the other team does lose interest, Jimmy ain't getting his 45. Duncan's not getting his open threes because they're going to treat Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero just as other guys. So I think it's important in game 3 going forward that at least one of those two make a statement. And almost to be honest with you, how dare Bam Adebayo not, with Clint Capella out of this series for now, and what he's going against with an undersized John Collins starting in the middle last night.
Undersized and hurt. I mean, John Collins is clearly not himself. John Collins is somebody who's been a heat killer in the past.
Yes.
He's not even.
He still got a
70%.
double-double. Yeah.
Yeah, he played well, even though he's not even 70% out there. I mean, you could tell he's hurting. I will say this: can you endure with those guys struggling? Yes, against the Hawks. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. They're gonna. I think you can win this series in 5 games if Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo don't get back on track. You can still steal one in Atlanta, come home and win game 5 if those guys don't. Can you beat Philly the way they're playing? No, you can't.
Hell no.
No.
Right.
No. So I think it's so I'm gonna flip the script again after you flip the script a little bit. I think it's if anything, I don't want to say it's good, but if this was going to happen at any point, you would want it to be against this Atlanta Hawks team, which is so and look, I let's be completely honest about this. What the Heat are benefiting from right now is the fact the Hawks had to go through the play-in. They had to go out there and fight in Cleveland. Somebody tweeted this and it's wrong that the NBA basically spotted the Heat a game 1 victory because of the quick turnaround.
I don't want to offend the folks at Slomin's, and I'll just say BS and leave it as bull crap instead of what I want to say for this reason. Clay, there have been umpteenth times in the NBA playoffs where a team wins a game and has to go out on the road 2 days later because that's the way the schedule is set up. It could happen in the Eastern Conference Finals. If one of the teams goes 7 games and the other team goes 4, the team that went 7 is going to get 1 travel day and go back and play again. It's the playoffs. Grow the bleep up. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear about they're not up to speed or the time off or the team that had to sit. Cut the crap. I almost said it. This is the freaking playoffs. And it doesn't matter what the timing is and where you are. If you are not ready for this and up to this challenge, then there is something wrong with your mental state, and it shows that you're not a true contender.
It's like some members of the media are just like patting the Hawks logo on the head and saying it's okay.
Good boy. Good Harry the Hawk. Good Harry the Hawk.
It's okay.
We still love you, Harry the Hawk.
Yeah, but I will say this though, and this is being completely honest about this. The Heat did benefit from the fact that the Hawks had to play extra games, and you hate to see injuries, but Clint Capella not playing in this series matters.
Right.
And so let's bring this back. The Heat can't afford to mess around. You got to find a way to win this thing in 4 or 5 games, because you don't want a situation where one of your, frankly, older veterans goes out there and has a hamstring issue or has a freak thing happen, like happened to Capella, where somebody rolls into his knee because you had to play an extra game. So I think what the Heat have shown is that they've got too many dudes for the Hawks. They've got too many guys that they can throw at this Atlanta team to where if Atlanta decides to take one guy like Duncan Robinson out, there are other guys that can hurt you. Jimmy Butler can sense where to make the difference and make the big play and win a game against the Hawks. But I think your point is valid in that moving forward, if you take on a Philadelphia 76ers team with Joel Embiid, if Bam can slow him down enough defensively, then maybe you're not concerned about what the offense is. But if that happens, you need Tyler Hero to step up. And I think he will. I think this is because it was back-to-back games. I think people are raising their eyebrows a little bit that, maybe it's not just a one-off and whatever. I'm not concerned. I still think those guys are going to find a way to get on track. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Game 3 is the Tyler Hero game.
I don't know if I agree, Clay, because he's had some moments that are bizarrely awful. He's had, I guess you can almost say, like comparing it to those Trae Young 10 turnovers. There have been moments in this series where I do wonder about Tyler and where his head is at. Maybe it's getting caught up in the playoff atmosphere. Again, let's go back to Tyler Hero's history. First, we forget he's just a third-year player. The first experience he ever has in the playoffs is in front of no fans. So, yes, he went off against Boston in that series, but it was weird. It was just a weird quarantine at Disney World when COVID first started. You had that. Last season, he comes back, and he's going against his hometown team, and that unique pressure also. And he was not great either. And even then, you remember, Clay, what the arena was like. It was sanitized. There were big boards behind the bench. They had those different benches. So this really is Tyler Hero's first loud and proud, sort of fans out there and what they're going through. And right now he's been very uneven. And he has not been the sixth man award winner. And in neither of the games has he been the Heat's best reserve. The Heat's best reserve in game one, of course, it's Duncan Robinson with his 8 of 9. I think, Clay, you would agree with me. The Heat's best, let's see, I'm not going to say the name here. The Heat's best reserve in game two was, oh, you better have this right away. I'm very disappointed.
Well, I mean, look, immediately I go to Deadman. I mean,
I don't. I go to Gabe Vincent. And I
think that's fair. And by the way, I thought it was telling that Spo had him in crunch time when the game was close, and that was simply, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because PJ Tucker went out with the 5 fouls.
Yes,
he didn't come back in. That was strictly because they were playing so well with Vincent in the lineup, right?
Yes.
That wasn't because PJ was hurt.
No, it wasn't an indictment. It wasn't an indictment on anyone. And again, I'm not trying to sell tickets here. You can buy them if you want. But if you get to watch games in the arena and you see what Gabe Vincent is doing off the ball to Trae Young, I could see why Trae Young is letting people under his skin, because Gabe Vincent is living under his skin. I mean, he is just right there, and what he's doing 94 feet all over the court. And that's impactful because what you want to do is tire out the opposing star, and Gabe has done that. So what I'm saying is Tyler Hero has not only not been sixth man of the postseason, he hasn't been sixth man of either game for the Heat. To your point, Clay, maybe that's a good thing, because here comes games 3 and game 4, and he'll have his chance. But I think he's just been a little bit off. I don't know if it's the moment. I don't know if it's the reality of these playoffs. I don't know if he's just the focus he's getting from the Hawks, because maybe in their game plan, it was stop Jimmy number 1, but stop Tyler number 2. So I am waiting for his moments, because you know what? You're going to need a better Tyler in the next round. We're going to talk about the upcoming series and go around the NBA. But with what Philadelphia is offering from Tyrese Maxey, I think Tyler Hero's the one that's going to have to match that when we sort of get into those matchups a little bit ahead of time here. So, I think they need more. I think they can get by with Bam doing the little things, because he is, honestly, Clay, a little things kind of player. He can fill 7, 8, 9 different boxes. Tyler Hero's a cold-hearted MFer who has to go out and score, and he just hasn't done that so far.
I'm not ready to – I don't even want to say panic button. I'm not even ready to press the concern button yet. Now, I will say this. Had they not found a way to win last night, then I do think it's a much bigger narrative.
Oh, sure.
I do think
the narrative totally flips. If Atlanta's comeback from 16 down early in the fourth to 3 down late in the fourth is finished, we're talking about where the hell is Bam Adebayo? What the hell is wrong with Tyler Hero? Why is Jimmy shooting that many shots? When is Kyle going to get himself involved? Narratives are, I don't care what anyone says, are always based on the score. And whether you think that's fair or not fair, that's the way it is. Trae Young had 25 points last night, and the narrative is he sucked, that he wasn't even his team's best. It just was, Clay. It was. So you do play the result. And I got to say this. For as much as coaches hate us playing the result, in playoffs it's different, because you have these 16 check marks you're trying to make. Every playoff win is gold, and it's gold toward the goal. And so that makes a difference. So, I'm going to say right now, I don't know what Clay Ferraro over in the other box is going to say, but I'm going to say right now, I will play the result every week here on our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint, because that's all that matters. I don't want to hear if the Heat got lucky. I don't want to hear if the Heat almost blew a lead. I don't want to hear if the ensemble is only at 50% right now. If you get me to 16 miserable wins and you want to bitch along the way, one, listen, but please don't text us in here on our message board here, because that's all it takes. If the Heat can put together 16 crappy wins, then you know what? They can have the crappy win parade, duck their head when they go under the overpass, and we'll call it a day. I'm playing the result. In the playoffs, you play the result.
You have to. And Ira, I want to underscore this, because it's the difference in how players, and more importantly, coaches, when we talk to them, look at these games and make adjustments, and how the national media look at these. Because you're right. I mean, that's what people are saying about Trae Young right now. But I think if you're Eric Spoelstra and the coaching staff of the Miami Heat, you're looking at what happened in the fourth quarter last night, and you're saying, I feel really good about how we played Trae Young. We need to find a way to keep playing Trae Young the way we have. but we can't afford to let Bogdanovic or Gallinari, for that matter, or Kevin Huerter, for that matter. We can't afford to let one of their other guys get off because they're too combustible. Trae Young is the star. We need to find a way to keep making life miserable for him. But if one of those other guys hits a couple of shots, see the ball go in the cup, especially at home, they're too good to where one guy, that was the Bogdanovic fourth quarter. That was the Bogdanovic comeback. That was not a Hawks comeback. That was Bogdanovic because the Heat let him get off. So we can sit here and talk about narratives. We can talk about whatever we want. The bottom line is you have to look at this on a game-by-game basis, and the narrative may shift based on the result. But what happened last night was Bogdanovic went off in the fourth quarter and made that game a lot closer than it should have been. So I guess that's why I'm not quite as concerned yet moving forward. I do feel like the hero game is coming. I do feel like Bam is going to keep making an impact in other ways, and I do feel like the scoring is going to come. But the bottom line is they're still winning. And maybe if they do lose a game, maybe you do start to get a little bit concerned that you need more from those guys. But because of how they were able to overcome the Bogdanovic game, where everything that the Heat wanted to do went right, and yet Atlanta still made a push, I think they're learning along the way. And every team is different. You can say, oh, Atlanta's a young team because of Trae Young and Collins, and they need to learn. The Heat shouldn't have to learn. Every team is different, man. Yes. Every game is different. You have to learn what you're about during the course of these playoffs. And I do feel like the Heat learned a little something last night. So we're going to get to what's going on in the rest 14 of the league.
More to go. That's what matters. Yeah.
We're going to get to what's going on around the league. We're going to get some of your comments, your questions. David Trion has a good question about Caleb Martin I want to get into a little bit. Sure. But, man, it's good to be talking about this up 2-0 as opposed to the alternative. That's a lot.